Hello, everybody. Let me offer a disclaimer, if I may, right off the bat. I think that there are probably 30 people in this room that know more about internet marketing than I do. So, I'm not going to pretend to know stuff I don't know. As I mentioned, we have a very small team, and, we kind of learn what works for us. And I'm happy to share with you everything and anything that I can about the way we do business and what works for us. I would be happy if this were nothing but a Q&A, and you can ask me any questions. But, let's kind of just jump in and get started with some stuff. And please feel free to interrupt me at any point and ask any questions, and I'll answer it as best I can. And if I can't, I'll bet you there's somebody in this room that can do that. How does all that sound, all right? Thank you. So, I think we're talking about, is this hooked up, Austin? There we go. So the most valuable consumer, who's the most valuable consumer in the world? Someone asked me earlier how I got out of local television and into this. And it was the day that I realized I didn't want my own kids to watch local TV, because it turned into a crime report, and I was the guy that was anchoring it, and I didn't want them to see their dad doing something that I used to be proud of. And at the same time, the station shared market research with me, and so when I looked at the surveys that we were doing, it's what's your name, what's your age, and if the age was 55 or older, we literally discontinued the interview. And I knew at the time, which is true to this day, that the average age of a local television newscast viewer is about 58. Young people don't watch local news anymore. And so I said, so you do not care about the opinion of the average viewer? And they said, no, it's not that we don't, it's that advertisers don't. So that kind of sent me into a deep dive for a year on demographics and how people our age consume differently than any 50-plus generation in the past, how we live differently, how we have different expectations. And to this day, people over 50 are ignored. Women over 50 are ignored. And I happen to believe that the most valuable consumer in the world, period, is a woman 45 to 65 years old. For multiple reasons. She's making healthcare decisions for 3 generations and sometimes 4 generations. Healthcare companies get this. Caregiving companies get this. If you can get the 45 to 65-year-old woman who is caring for her parent or will about to be, you get the business of the caregiving and you create a relationship with the younger woman. Women 45 to 65 are on the receiving end of the largest transfer of wealth in history, something like $7 trillion. Here's an interesting fact from financial services. Women live a year or two longer than men, but after her husband dies, the average widow continues to live 12 more years. And 70% of those widows change financial planners within the first 12 months. And they're about to be on the receiving end of the biggest transfer of wealth in history. So these financial services companies are losing 12 years of business from 70% of their female clients because they don't know how to talk to women, because they haven't treated women with respect, because when they sit down and do financial planning, they look at the man and not at the woman. Women don't need to know this kind of stuff. Women account for 27%. Women over 50 account for 27% of all consumer spending, which is a number much higher than men over 50. Women over 50 are highly social and not interested in slowing down. Men over 50, and I get these are all generalizations. Men over 50, men over 65, they reach that point, and most of them, they just want to keep what they got. They just want to stay where they are. They don't want to put it out there. They don't want to risk it. Women are entirely different in general. Women want to continue to live. Women want to socialize. Women want to aspire. Women of that age very much think of this as my time. It is finally my time. Now, this is going to be different when some of you younger women get to be 50 and 60, and God bless you because you're changing the culture. But many women have devoted their lives to taking care of their families, taking care of their husbands, sacrificing their wants, their desires, their interests, their passions for that of the family. They do not want to believe that the prime of their life is in the rearview mirror. And many men will do that. You know, we talked about in the earlier thing that the incidence of suicides for older people has jumped a lot lately. The highest rate of suicide of all, it's not teenage girls, it's white men over the age of 75. And, you know, it bothered me, it intrigued me, I wondered why, and the accepted answer is because they typically don't miss. You know, they take a handgun, and that's it. But I want to know what puts the gun in their hand in the first place. And here's what I've come up with. I think white men over the age of 75 have never been made to feel less than. They've never been the object of gender bias. They've never been the object of race bias. Almost every other kind of person has had to deal with this kind of crap throughout their life. And all of a sudden, these men who are over 75 years old and they're white, you know, they're not it anymore. And they don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to adjust. They don't know how to accommodate. And so a lot of them just want to stay where they are. They want to be who they were. Women are not that way, again, in general. Women want to experience. They want to figure out what's up. So what we've learned in terms of attracting women over the age of 40, and I'll be honest with you, that's the only person we see when we create content. I had several women come up to me today after talking earlier, and it happens all the time, and they say, gosh, I wish my husband was here. He really needs to hear this. If you get the woman 45 to 65, you know, she'll put more pressure on her husband than you're going to. If you get the woman 45 to 65, you're going to get her mother. I can't tell you how many books I signed for mothers. You know, so we're a small company. We don't have big resources. We have never spent a single penny on marketing. I'm proud of that only this much because there's a lot we could be doing. We don't evaluate our metrics the way that we should, the way that many of you do and know how to do. We just made the decision that we're going after women 45 to 65, and when you do look at our metrics across all platforms, that is our average user, viewer, reader. 69% of the people who follow us on Facebook are women 45 to 65. So you have to make it personal. Women over 45, women in the demographic that we target, they don't want to be treated like everybody else. They don't want the gross generalization. So you're going to have to segment your market. You've got to figure out what the things are that appeal to them and do different things. They want to be inspired because they want to know that there's more. They respond to this messaging, and you address their deepest fears. This is just a short little kind of a deal that we did for Facebook. We did, I said we repurposed stuff. We did a longer version of this woman, and then we just cut it into a short thing and put some words on it so people could see it. But this is kind of a piece that appeals to women 45 to 65 who don't know how they're going to make it to what's next.
89-year-old Ann Call runs year-round.
My health insurance is on my feet, my running shoes. That's it.
If it's too hot to run in the street, she runs in her pool and encourages friends to join her.
Anne is such a great motivator, and she just draws people into her circle.
She also illustrates original motivational fitness calendars that she gives for free to anyone who wants one. How can she live and give like this?
Because I don't owe anything. House is paid for, car is paid for. I'm solvent, totally solvent.
Never underestimate the health-wealth connection. The one investment guaranteed to pay the most dividends in the years ahead is improving your health and well-being.
That's a message that resonates, and you can wrap it into many, many different ways, but this is something that everyone's concerned about, but particularly women 45 to 65. And there's a number of reasons for that. I think I missed the slide that I wanted to have, but we'll get to that. So this is now marketing to the fears of women 45 to 65 in a positive way. There are three things that baby boomers fear more than death. Absolutely fear more than death. Number one is chronic disease and disability. And who's got the answer to that? You guys. Chronic disease is the true epidemic of our time. 80% of every healthcare dollar is spent on preventable chronic illness. All we got to do is modify our lifestyle and we take care of this. We have an obligation not only to ourselves and our families, but to our culture. This is a huge deal. This is where nobody wants to be. This frightens everybody. It especially frightens women 45 to 65, chronic disease and disability. Dementia. They say 50% of all people 85 and over have, some degree of Alzheimer's. Everybody's afraid of cognitive decline, and, what do we know? What can delay that? It's an incurable disease. We get it. Once you got it, there's no cure for it at this point, but it has been proven time and time again. You can delay it, and you can reduce the effects of it. And you can overcome the impact of it, so much so that there's countless cases of people who overcame the pathology. And what I mean by that is people that died for whatever reason. They cut their brain open, and their brain was riddled with amyloid plaques, which are a telltale sign of Alzheimer's. But they showed no signs of it. So how did they do it? I mentioned Olga Kotelko earlier in the speech, the woman who compressed morbidity. She became so famous that they wanted to study her. Before she died, she went to this big research group, and they took all of this imaging of her brain. And then they just put it aside because they were busy, and then they hired a new young researcher after Olga died, and she became intrigued, with Olga. She read her story, and she said, "What are we doing with these brain scans?" And they said, "Nothing. Do you want to take a look at them?" So she studied them and took a look at them. And what she saw when they looked at Olga Kotelko's brain is that her corpus callosum, which is a large area of white mass between the two hemispheres of the brain, was huge. It was much bigger than anybody her age, and it was as big as a woman 30 or 40 years old. And what they found when they looked at it is it did not look like new matter. I mean, it didn't look like, her brain was dinged up. It looked like an old brain, but the corpus callosum, the white matter, was new. And so how did she do that? How did she grow that so late in life? And they surmised, after looking at what she did, that she did it because she took on all of these highly technical events that forced her to use her brain. So how do you overcome dementia to the extent that we can? You guys are the answer. And by the way, the one thing while we're talking about Alzheimer's that, I've done a couple of stories on this on some brain clubs. Both of my parents died of Alzheimer's. My sister is involved in, she does some very creative things. And, we have to destigmatize dementia. People are afraid to talk about it. They don't get help as early as they can. The one thing that everybody can experience, no matter how advanced their dementia might be, is love and joy. That ability never goes away. We can still experience love. We can still experience joy. And yeah, our loved ones are going somewhere. We can't pull them back, but we can go with them. And that's really the key. The people who are successfully dealing with loved ones who have Alzheimer's is, they don't make them feel guilty. You asked me that a minute ago. You asked me that 15 times. I'm going to quiz you on this. I'm going to quiz you on that. That's what drove my sister into what she does today. She felt guilty. She's the most loving, kind person in the world, but she didn't know how to deal with it, and you get frustrated. No matter how advanced Alzheimer's or dementia is, those people can still experience love and joy, and it's incumbent upon us to figure out how to give it to them. And then the number one thing that women over 50 fear more than death is running out of money. It goes back to the health-wealth connection. We don't want to run out of time before we run out of money. And what's the answer to that? It's the health-wealth connection. It's especially the health-wealth connection because of this. This is a slide I was looking for before. Women over their careers, on average, this is an issue today, as it was a month ago, as it was 10 years ago, as it will be in a year, because we are too damn slow to do anything that makes a difference. A woman over their career makes 77 cents on every dollar that a man makes, losing on average $500,000 over her lifetime due to a gender wage gap. A woman lives 4 years longer on average, but works 12 years fewer, contributing less to her retirement plan. Women are more likely to work part-time jobs that don't offer retirement plans. They're far more likely to interrupt their careers to become caregivers. How many men do you know that quit their job or take a sabbatical or a leave of absence to take care of their mom or their dad? It doesn't happen. It's the daughter. It's primarily the first daughter. Women do that. They're 3 times more likely to live alone when they reach old age. You know, poverty for older women is a huge, huge issue. So we have to learn how to leverage the health-wealth connection. And I leave that to you guys to figure out how to do it. You know, we do it with stories like the one I showed you with Ann Call. We do it by writing little blogs. We do it, you know, if I were you, I would do marketing campaigns. You know, what's the number one investment you can make? It costs no money. It's improving your overall health and well-being, and we can help. Those are the kind of things. Again, you're sick of me hearing it. We have a very small team. We spend no money. I'm not proud of it. We are in the midst of a capital raise right now. We're going to step on the gas in the next 12 months, and you'll see us everywhere, I hope. But we have focused our marketing on Facebook. We need to do more on Instagram because I know that's kind of the place where the younger people are. But Facebook is the place where the women that we want to find are, and it's so easy to market directly to them even without spending money. You can geo-target, you can pick, I want a 55 to 65-year-old woman that lives here, that makes this much money, that's interested in this, that's battling this. I mean, it's so easy to do. 83% of all U.S. women use Facebook, 62%. And this is one of the biggest fallacies that people have about older people. You know, it's changing every day. It's changed a long time ago. People over the age of 50 spend more money online than any age group. You know, everybody says people are afraid to spend money. You can't get someone over 60 to do something online. That's craziness. People over 50 spend more time online than younger people. And the barrier to exit is too high for people 50 plus. You know, we made a decision long ago when we started doing what we're going to do, that we're a content company, we're not a technology company. Technology changes too fast. I don't understand it, I can't keep up with it. You can make a major billion-dollar bet in a particular kind of technology and it can be totally transformed. I mean, look at the problems that Facebook has had. I thought Facebook was too big to fail. It still may be, I don't know, but if someone comes along with a better taste of social networking, social media, Facebook will be gone, or it won't be what it is today. But at this point, this is where the people are, and the barrier to exit is too high for 50 plus. I've got all my photos on Facebook. I got friends on Facebook. I got videos on Facebook. My kids are on Facebook. Now I'm sounding like the stereotype that I fight against, but I just don't have the time, the interest, or the energy to move on to another social platform. Facebook is also extremely adept at figuring out what's next and getting there, or buying out the person the company that's doing it. You know, Periscope was huge. Facebook came along with Facebook Live. Craigslist is huge. Facebook comes along with Marketplace. One example after another, any kind of new feature that you want, Facebook is going to be able to do it. So the kind of content that we want to put on as much as we can is user-generated content. And, you know, that can be nothing more than a photo. You know, it's hard to get people to send you videos and to do that kind of stuff. But if you can get your clients to give you photos of them and put a quote of them and put it on Facebook, so-and-so's, you know, have changed my life. That's the kind of stuff that will get the engagement that you need. The average click-through rate on Facebook ads, and again, we don't buy Facebook ads, but we probably should and will before too long. 90%, click-through rate 90% on Facebook ads. That's amazing, and I think it speaks to the degree of targeting that it has. 47% of the value of Facebook video happens in the first 3 seconds. You know, this is a hard one for me because, you know, we produce videos that are 4 and 5 minutes long for our TV show, and then we realize we've got to repurpose them and make them smaller, and you've got to capture. You got to capture them in the first three seconds, and you've got to understand while you're capturing them that they're not listening to it. Almost nobody listens to Facebook anymore. They just watch it as it passes by, and if it's interesting, they'll continue to pay attention to it. So you put the big words up there. You know, Facebook makes it very easy to close caption it, but it's really small. So if you're doing something with the 85-year-old woman who's, you know, planking, you know, put the best thing you got right up front. This could be you. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but don't waste your time. People are 1.5 times more likely to watch video daily on a smartphone than a desktop. And that is continuing to grow every single day. So you have to realize when you're creating content that this is the platform. This is what everybody's watching this stuff on. I don't know whether this will be useful to you or not. We use video in a lot of ways. I don't send emails to people that I'm trying to do business with anymore. I do send an email and say, you know, can I talk to you? Can we do this? And then we'll send them a proposal. But I have found that just communicating with people works better. They see who you are. They see that you're authentic. And I don't know how you use this in your business, but you could do it in emails. You could do it with potential clients. You don't need, we got a green screen in our office. And I walk in front of it, and a guy comes out with a camera, and I start talking. You know, we don't have a teleprompter. We just communicate. And this is something that we sent to Disney Signature Experiences. Disney Signature Experiences is a brand validator for a company like mine. If I could get Disney Signature Experiences on my magazine with a full-page ad, then I go and try to talk to Humana or anybody else. I don't need to tell them that we're for real. Disney Signature Experiences is a company that, unless they perceive some sort of brand equity, is not going to play with you. So this is how we got their attention. All right, a little bit of production up front.
Here at Growing Bolder, we are often reminded about the unique bond between grandparents and their grandchildren. In fact, the most recent issue of Growing Bolder magazine has an article by Leslie Stahl, one of America's greatest broadcast journalists, in which she says she's madly in love with her granddaughters, and you can't understand the depth of those feelings until it happens to you. Stahl is hardly alone. There are over 75 million grandparents in the U.S., with 2 million more every year. Combine that with the fact that grandparents control 75% of the nation's wealth, and it's no wonder that intergenerational travel is booming. An expert on grandparent spending habits puts it this way: people will do a lot of things for their children. They will do anything for their grandchildren. A recent AARP study found that nearly half of all people 45 and older plan to take a multi-generational family trip within a year. We posted a single graphic on Facebook recently asking about the power of traveling with grandchildren. Within hours, the meme had a reach of over 40,000 and was shared hundreds of times, generating comments and photos from grandparents all over the world describing their trips with their grandchildren. We obviously struck a chord. And maybe the best kind of post were by grandparents tagging their grandchildren and grandchildren tagging their grandparents, encouraging each other and planting the seeds for future travel. We love the idea of promoting the benefits of intergenerational travel through the actual words and passion of grandparents and grandchildren. To further test this idea, we asked a couple of our friends who have traveled with their grandchildren or grandparents to stop by the studio and answer a couple of quick questions about their experience. This is raw video from 3 short interviews.
So my Gigi, when she was little, like my age, she used to dream about going to Paris, and it was really awesome getting to fulfill that dream with her.
This is what I've always wanted to do, to share something like this with her and to see it through her eyes, but also experience for the first time in my life.
We saw the Eiffel Tower together for the first time, and we got to see the Louvre together. It was so big.
It's through going with them and experiencing that. I'll get through this.
When Joel was in 6th grade, his parents took him to South America. 3 decades later, he eulogized his grandmother, sharing the impact of that experience on his life.
It was sort of my most sincere and genuine memory was traveling for 2 weeks with him, just the 3 of us, and meeting new people and having dinner together and just being in close quarters, living in the same room. That was the one that really I remembered and highlighted as the story of what my grandma really shared and passed on to me. A love of traveling, a love of seeing different people and different cultures.
Grandkids of all ages are transformed forever by the experience of traveling with grandparents.
The best thing is just like how much you bond on the trip and how much you learn about each other on the trip. That's like by far the best thing.
How long will this be a good memory for you?
Probably my entire life. It's like this memory will last forever.
But looking at the grandparents, mine spent generously. If they had it, travel to them was extremely important, and important enough to not just do it for themselves, but to bring us grandkids along and give us these memories that do last for a lifetime. So I'd say budget's a little bit important, but if it's there and it's available, it's the kind of thing that definitely transcends budget and is something that I'd do in a heartbeat.
Traveling with grandkids is the ultimate win-win, a bucket list experience often described as the trip of a lifetime by both generations.
I felt so much younger. I could have gone on this. It was nice. It was really nice. It was invigorating.
My grandfather, Didi, he isn't really the best at traveling, and we thought he wouldn't do that good, but now he's like wondering when our next trip is gonna be.
Growing Boulder recognizes an opportunity to become the media company that leverages the voice of grandchildren of all ages from 4 to 40 and of grandparents of all ages from 45 to 95 to spread the word about the life-changing and memory-making gift of intergenerational travel. We'd like Disney Signature Experiences to be our official Growing Boulder grandparent travel partner as we share the many benefits of intergenerational travel with this important demographic. As you'll see, we're proposing that we produce an 8-episode series brought to you by Disney Signature Experiences. Each 10 to 12-minute episode will feature on-air talent, subject matter experts, and organic advertorial video content, including actual Disney experiences. Each episode will leverage the voices of actual grandchildren and grandparents and include segments such as creating a grandparent-grandchild connection through travel.
All right, you guys get the idea. Sorry. I don't mean for that to overwhelm you, but I think the nugget in there, you could do the same thing with a cell phone and the benefits of exercise, functional fitness, Tai Chi, whatever it is, in their own words and how this is impacting people. I showed the little video of our thing in the villages 2 weeks ago. When the show was over, someone came up to me and said, Jennifer Parr wants to talk to you. She's in the lobby. And I said, who's Jennifer Parr? And they said, well, she's the head of development for the villages. So, I went there and she immediately came up to me and introduced me to her husband. We had a nice chat. She said, it was amazing. Thank you for doing this here. And I said, well, you guys were amazing. Thank you for allowing us to do it here. And then I went back and the next day I looked up who's Jennifer Parr. Jennifer Parr is Gary Morris's daughter. Gary Morris is the guy who founded the villages. When he died 2014, all 3 of his kids were immediately multi-billionaires. So she's one of 3 siblings who's now running the villages, in charge of all development there. And so I emailed her when I saw that and said, thanks again, sorry we couldn't talk. I would love to learn more about what's going on there because they just bought 26,000 additional acres to develop. And I'd love to share with you more of the Growing Boulder message. I have no ask. I'd just like to chat. And she said, absolutely. So I drove down there. We had a great chat. It lasted an hour. And on the way back, I went with someone in my office. We kind of brainstormed. So as soon as I got back, rather than send her an email, I sent her this.
Hi, Jennifer. We've been back about 10 minutes now, and our minds are running wild with ideas that we want to share with you. First of all, my apologies again for having to leave so quickly. We did resolve the emergency in Albuquerque, so everything is good there. Robert and I brainstormed the entire way back. We love the idea of creating content around a Growing Boulder franchise called Finding Your Tribe because, we really feel, as I know you do, that that's a huge differentiator for the villages. You have so many different options for people to get involved, and we love the whole idea that community is immunity. So creating editorial content around that would be a whole lot of fun. We love the idea of doing a launch pad to What's Next quarterly in the villages, and maybe move it into one of your smaller venues, 250 or 350 seats, so tickets are difficult to get. Everyone would be different, but it would be the same message about the opportunity of aging, about looking at passion and possibility instead of loss and limitation. And a cool wrinkle would be that each one would feature one of the tribes in the villages, where we would bring up the leader of that tribe, and they would be one of the stars of that particular event, and they would share with the audience what they get out of that tribe and how they do their thing. We could write a regular magazine.
So you get the idea there. You know, it's showing people examples, anybody that you're trying to do business with. If you have the ability to email an iPhone video, if you have the ability to capture the people that you're working with, and don't just put a 3-minute video of an old guy, doing box jumps or something like that. Something that's short and to the point and has a message to it. This could be you. It's never too late. I would always capture sound with your happy clients. Despite the fact that we said most people watch Facebook with the sound down, a good 8, 10, 12-second soundbite is gold. It can be repurposed in multiple ways. So I think that's just kind of the overview of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. We can have a chat about any of this in further detail if you want. But that's kind of where we are with going after women 45 to 65 and how we're doing it. Comments, questions, thoughts? You won't hurt my feelings. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. She's just being kind, but thank you so much.
I want to thank you so much for signing this for my mom and dad, because they follow you, they follow the Growing Boulder, and now to see this and their names signed by you, this is awesome. So it really makes an impact for the printed material for the older generation too. So
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
thank you.
We publish that ourselves. And if you got a book and you look at it, it'll say Growing Boulder Publishing, which was not inexpensive, but, we wanted to send the signal, always thinking about what's next, that we are going to be a publishing entity. We are going to have our own version of, a Chicken Soup for the Soul series, Growing Boulder with Technology, Growing Boulder with Finances, Growing Boulder with Functional Fitness, Growing Boulder with this, that, and everything else. And this was just kind of the first one-off in that direction, but that's, wanted to learn what it took. It wasn't easy. I know Nicole does publishing with FAI. She does a fabulous job. I can highly recommend her. But, for what we wanted to do, we wanted to get started ourselves. Yes, sir.
Talking about the health-wealth connection. I mean, we all get it. If you work out, if you're in shape, if you're fit, you're healthy, your money's not going to go to doctors. But when we present that message to prospects who have not worked out, they've lived sedentary lives, they don't see themselves as gym people or fit people or athletes, engaging them in that conversation is difficult. They don't believe it. They don't believe themselves to be that way. You call them an athlete and they blush. We get it, but they don't. Any tips on how to further engage or how to better engage folks like that?
I think it's a great question, and I would avoid the A word altogether. I think that's one of my challenges as well. I had more sports people in my presentation this morning than I normally would, mostly because we're here at the National Senior Games. But we're always quick to show examples of people that are doing that whole nonagenarian glump that I did of those 8 or 10 people. There wasn't an athlete in there, and for that reason. So I think if you're saying you're an athlete, you're right. I mean, they've all automatically got these preconceived ideas. I think the message is that there is not, you can't find a study anymore that doesn't say that movement is important. You have to move. You can increase the quality of your life if you move. Call it exercise, call it prehabilitation. And as we all know, the trend now is vigorous physical exercise. We all have said And some may continue to say, and it's true, just get up and move. Walking is good for you. Yeah, but jogging is better if you don't have any problem. I mean, in every sport in the world that it's an individual sport, it's race-paced training is what people do now. People are doing fewer yardage than they used to do in swimming and track and field, and it is 100%, it's all out for as long as you can. And I know there's trainers that are doing that as well. It's vigorous physical exercise that kind of gets the results. So you can't take people to vigorous physical exercise at first, and I think as you guys know, I wrote a little something in the book. To me, the name of the game when we get older is to avoid injury at all cost. You can say whatever you want to about doing this or doing that, but the worst thing that can happen is an injury. And I tell myself this all the time. I run in addition to swim, and I've learned that if I begin to feel anything, I shut it down right then. It's just not worth it. You can bust your butt for a long time, and if you get injured, you are totally out of the game for a month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever. So, that's why you guys are so important. I mean, that's what you offer to these people is your expertise and your ability to work with people and get them where they can go without injuring them. I would make that, an important part. People can't do this alone. They don't know when to shut it down. They don't know the right technique. So it's a great conversation, and I wish I could tell you this is exactly what works. What I have found that works with people that are non-athletes is to share with them rehabilitation. I mean, that's the message. No one is sitting in this audience thinks they are the superhuman one that is going to escape stuff happening to them. I mean, you could be the fittest dudes in the room right here, and you guys are going to have some trouble. Yeah, I'm looking at you. You guys are going to have some issues, who knows when. It happens to everybody. And it is true. It's infallible. It is absolutely. We did a story on a guy named Rogelio Munoz, 101 years old now. When he was 93, he wanted a new knee. And he went to 4 doctors, and they said, and he's Hispanic. He said, no, they all tell me no new knee. He finally went to a doctor who said, I didn't look at his age. I looked at his motivation. I looked at what he wanted to do and what he was doing. And so I put a knee in him because I knew it wasn't going to go to waste. Well, this was 93 years old. 6 months after he got his knee, he went to Hawaii on vacation, and he climbed a lava flow mountain, and he took a picture of himself and sent it back to his doctor. He's now 101. He walks every day. He rides a bike. He's on his computer. So, it's the whole idea of prehabilitating, of preparing for the setbacks that we're going to have is something that, seems to work and motivate people. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mark. I'm
Hi.
a big fan. I'm Lisa Wright,
Hi,
Corpus
Lisa.
Christi, Texas.
Thank you.
One of the things we do is give your book out to our 1-year anniversary clients. My whole team and I are functional aging specialists. But I have 3 questions. So TOMA, you've heard that, right? Top of the mind awareness. And you do that as well in your marketing as anybody I've ever seen. I've been in the industry for 21 years. And yet, you give us so much hope because you talk about this simplicity. You have a small team, you have a small, so to me that gives me a lot of hope that we can keep getting better, at what we do. So I have a couple of questions. I watch is it called a 60-minute rant?
60-second soapbox.
Or 60-second soapbox.
Yeah.
It's so great. But you just have such a consistency with your, even the font that you use. Anyway, could you tell me a little bit, what video editor do you use? Or do you have a techie person that does all that for you? Just could you go a little bit more into that kind of stuff?
Sure. My entire team are former people that I work with at the television station. In fact, they say to me to this day, I'm the first one that made it over the wall and came back for more. Once I figured out how to start putting a couple of dollars together to do this, I went back and hired the best video editors that we had. I hired the best producers. We have 8 people on our team total. We produce 5th season of a national TV show that was on 350 channels this. We're doing this Launchpad. We publish a magazine. We've got a radio show. We've got a podcast.
Right.
So we do it with a very small team, but they're all local news people who are used to kind of running and gunning. And, production companies, if you hire a production company, they're going to show up with, the guy with the big microphone with the furry thing on the end of it, and the audio board right here, and a producer that's telling everybody what to do, and a lighting guy. And, we show up with me and a microphone and a guy who's handheld with a camera. So, it is a matter of trying to get a quality that's acceptable, which, by the way, has really been degraded with Skype and everything else. I mean, you watch the network news and they'll put a Skype interview on with anybody. So you can't be overwhelmed by thinking that you have to do, high-end video production. We edit on laptops or computers. We use Adobe Premiere, which is free. Everything we do is open source. The first platform that we built was proprietary. That was one of the things that made me realize we do not want to be in the technology business. We're now on a WordPress platform because, when you're on an open source platform, essentially, every open source developer in the world is working for you for nothing. They're thinking of crap you've never even thought of that you didn't realize you need. So, we try to simplify everything. Or the question about writing it or messaging. I have just 2 editors. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Two guys that edit, 2 guys that shoot.
So is your team like contracted? Or are you working them all full time? Do they have other jobs?
No, they're all full time.
Wow.
We all have a very specific mission in mind of where we're going. The opportunity now is greater than it was a month ago, greater than it was a year ago, greater than it was 3 years ago. I mean, we're trying to connect with the older demographic, but also the younger demographic. And people are starting to come to us and saying, you have a message that resonates not only with older people, but younger people as well. And that's really where the action is. I was telling somebody earlier, and in terms of your storytelling, I mean, I always would try to do this if you're targeting an 80-year-old woman, always think about, are you doing it in a way that would appeal to a 40-year-old woman? I was a sports director for the NBC station in Orlando. I anchored the 6 and 11 sports. The first job that I had in sports was in Phoenix, and the news director called me in and said, your job is not to appeal to the hardcore sports fan. They'll like anything you do because they're hardcore sports geeks. Your job is to keep Mrs. Jones, this is Mrs. Jones right here, is to keep Mrs. Jones from getting up and going to the kitchen when the sports comes on. If you can keep Mrs. Jones engaged in sports, because she's 70% of our audience, you will have a career in local television. So I learned early on a way to tell a story that appealed to everybody. I never went to a tournament and told a story on the best team in the tournament. I always told a story on the worst team in the tournament. Because I found that interesting, what kept them going. I never did a story on the star quarterback. I did a story on the star quarterback's mother. Now, the hardcore sport fan was interested in that, but so was everybody else. So when you're telling your stories, you have to figure out how to cast as wide a net as possible. And I think that's something that we have been able to do. Yes. Figure out a way that allows people to see themselves in it. That's why I like our brand. Early on, we talked about, let's create a kids initiative, and at some point we will. But I didn't want to I did not want to confuse who we are. We were going to do Growing Bolder Kids. Our take on Just Say No, our take on bullying, it's something that is important and would resonate. But we wanted to, kind of focus our brand on who we're going after, but do it in a way where people could it's Nike's brand. Yeah. Nike is Just Do It. What the hell does Just Do It mean? It means something different to everybody. Those are the powerful brands where we can attach whatever meaning to it that we want. So, that's kind of the game that we're trying to play with a very small team of full-time employees.
Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? It says 10:33 on this. They're counting me down. I hope I'm not disappointing you with my lack of knowledge about specific stuff.
Marc, this isn't a question. This is just, I lived in Orlando for many years, so I watched you make that leap of faith, you and Bill and Wendy, to start this. And I just love where I see it's going. I have been following you on Facebook ever since, and I can't wait to see where you take it next.
I appreciate it. Is there anybody from AARP in here? I'll tell you guys something on the down low. I can't tell you any more than this unless you sign an NDA. We're launching the Growing Boulder Association next year. It will be highly differentiated from AARP, which in my estimation has a severe branding problem. People your age don't want to have anything to do with it. People my age. AARP has never come up in any conversation that I have had in any meaningful manner. And don't get me wrong, I think AARP is a brilliant company. It's a great media company. They produce a lot of really, really good content. Where they have failed, in my estimation, is that they have been the de facto organization of aging in this country for 60 years, and this is how much they've changed the culture of aging. Absolutely zero. And they are beholden to United Healthcare, from which they get $880 million in royalties every year for selling Medicare supplement insurance. And anything that would expand Medicare, anything that would diminish the importance and the need for supplement insurance is something that they will not get behind. We're not going to be beholden to anybody, and the benefits of membership in the Growing Boulder Association are going to be anything that can help you be you. Discounts to guitar lessons at the guitar store, discount adventure travel, all kinds of travel, but we're also talking about having the kind of trips where you can go to Siberia, get on a Russian jet, and skydive onto the North Pole. We're not going to have exclusive deals just with Avis. We're going to have Lyft and Uber. We're not going to have exclusive deals just with Hyatt. Yes, we'll have Marriott, but we'll also have Airbnb and VRBO. You know, we're going to take it into the next generation, and the age to join the Growing Boulder Association is going to be adult. You can self-identify, and to the point, we think we can do that because we have a message that resonates with younger people. We believe in the power of intergenerational connection. I want to hang out with cool 80-year-olds. I want to hang out with cool 30-year-olds. Anybody that's into passion is what sells. If you guys can figure that out, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your age is. If you're passionate about something, I want to know you. I want to know all about you. I want to hang out with you. And I don't even have to share the passion. Passion is the most attractive characteristic to me of anybody. So if we can gather a bunch of passionate people that are interested in doing their thing, I get into these conversations. I think that there's a chapter in, no, I didn't take it out. I had a chapter about AARP that I took out. There's a chapter in the book that's called The Ageism of the Anti-Ageism Movement. There are people in the anti-ageism movement who criticize Growing Boulder because they think we're presenting an idealized vision of aging, to which I say, no, we're presenting a realized vision of aging. There's nothing... We're not saying that there aren't problems with aging. We're not saying that we're all not going to die because we are, but we are saying that many of the equalities that are exclusively associated with youth have nothing to do with our age. Vitality is not something that is only for the young. Curiosity, creativity, interest has nothing to do with our age. So we're just trying to present a realized vision of aging. People in the anti-aging movement say we can't do this alone. We can't change the narrative message of decline in this country. We got to bring in institutions. We got to bring in corporations. We got to bring in younger people. We got to bring in we got to change policy. And I just get overwhelmed and tired, and I say, no. Yeah, all that's cool. But if you and I wait for that, the youngest person in this room, it's going to be too late. The only way to change the culture of aging is to change the way we age one person at a time. And if enough of us can do that, enough other people will see that, enough younger people will understand that, and pretty soon it'll be cool to be 80 years old. We'll be respected. People will understand the power of aging. At one point I've thought about doing a whole campaign that's called This Is Old, but we avoid the old word for now, where you just have some really cool people, not just fit people, but other people doing cool stuff and say, this is old. Kind of like, this is Sparta. So, that's something you guys could do in your thing. You kind of, I don't like criticism. I just can't even look. we're in the business of doing nothing but trying to inspire people. You know what? We avoid politics like the plague. My God. We've declared Growing Bolder a no-hate zone. We respect different opinions, but don't attack anybody. But we'll post something whose 100% mission is to inspire and to encourage and to nurture, and someone, and you guys know this, you're on social media, someone will find a problem with it. So in general, I don't like criticism. I don't even read a lot of this stuff anymore, but I think that we have to. I need to push myself out there, and you guys do too. We got to be provocative because our message is provocative. We got to stir the pot a little bit. We got to let people know that more is possible. And it's not an us against them. It's all of us together. And I say this to people. I'm not trying to tell you you need to run a marathon or you should run a marathon. If you want to sit on the couch and smoke a cigarette and eat Cheese Whiz, you've earned the right. I'm not going to make a value judgment about that at all. If that's what you want to do because that's what you want to do, God bless you and you should do it. I only want you to know that more is possible than you've been led to believe in. If you do know that and you do understand that and you do understand that there is a path from here to there and you don't want to take it, I've got no problem with it. I still want to be your friend. I still want to encourage you. We're not trying to make everybody age in the same way. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be anything. Just be yourself. That's what I like about this age. I think the next iteration of Marc, once I get this figured out, is I'm going to be an abstract painter. I have no idea why. I've never done it. I just have this feeling inside of me that I can throw some paint around and it's going to look pretty damn good. I can't wait to do that. So I'm excited by the fact that there's no limits to what we might do or what we might try. 302. We're down to 302. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so first of all, thank you. And thank you to everybody that's in this room for recognizing this amazing resource that's here in this small room with us. I have two questions I hope you can speak to. One is housing. I'm from Colorado, and our co-housing, alternative housing, housing for people who are active and blah, 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 not retirement housing, but the things that are going on in Florida, we don't have that in Colorado. So I'm wondering what I can do to take the message back home. I work a lot with counties and elected officials, which is my target demographic, which brings me to my second piece of my question, which is, are you having any positive conversations with insurance companies and how we defray the cost of those negative stereotypes of aging that still exist by doing the things that we're all doing in this room, all connected, and if it can have to do with housing, that'd be great. Housing and insurance.
Thank you. Insurance, yes. We've been, if you look in the magazine, if you see a copy of our magazine, there's no half-page ads in there. There's no quarter-page ads in there. I've been very, myopic to our own detriment. We're not trying to sell little ads. We're trying to engage big clients in key verticals. Healthcare, finances, and I've always said there is a natural symbiotic relationship between personal trainers and finance companies. Everybody that's a financial planner should have someone that they recommend. And they do this. I tell you, we're in deep discussions with multiple national financial planning companies, and they're just enamored with the whole health-wealth connection and the fact that we are, because financial planners are life planners these days. Anybody that's just trying to help you with your money is probably not getting as much business as the people that are looking at you and saying, I'm going to help you figure out how to do this and do this and do this. And by the way, here's the best investment you can make. The single most important investment any of us can make today costs nothing. You improve our overall health and well-being. Financial services and insurance, yes. There will be 13 executives, 13 including 4 C-level executives from Humana Healthcare at our Launchpad to What's Next show Tuesday night at the Chemo, because Humana is the title sponsor of the National Senior Games. They're very much interested. They flew in 2 guys to watch our show in the Villages. They're one of the groups that we're talking about. And that's the cool thing. That's another symbiotic relationship. Every insurance company in the world will increase their bottom line if they increase the health of the people that hold their policies. And that's very much what they're trying to do. In terms of co-housing, I'm not sure that I know anything about co-housing or how I could add to that conversation. You know, there's so many different things to get involved in. One of the guys who spoke at our conference, I said Dr. Bill Thomas, in addition to starting the Eden Project, which deinstitutionalized nursing home, he started the Greenhouse Project. Well, he's now got 68 of them all over the country, and his new reinvention of himself in his mid-60s is a company called Minka, M-I-N-K-A Homes. It's a Japanese word that means something. But they are literally 3D printing. I'm not sure it's exactly 3D printing, small modular homes. You know, it's this tiny homes kind of a thing. It's the grandparents' cottage kind of a thing. But this is a guy who has transformed senior living, and he's incorporating into these small modular homes every convenience, everything, and they can be put anywhere. So in addition to doing individual ones, he's creating communities. This is his vision, where he's got all these communities of these Minka homes out there that... I'm fascinated by the topic. I know nothing about it. There's communes out there now. There's the villages out there now. There's artist communities out there now. There's every kind of everything. One of the shows that I've been pitching that I'm trying to find the bandwidth to do is I want to do a series on the top expatriate communities in the world. Because there are more Americans going overseas now than ever before for health care. And we all have the same concerns. Is health care good? Are we going to be safe? Will our money be safe? What kind of socialization opportunities are there? And there's 5 or 6 places in the world that are always the places that people go to. I've never seen that show. I want to see that show myself. If I go to Costa Rica to live, what's it going to be like? If I go to Ireland to live, what's that going to be like? We'll get there. This is my biggest problem, as you've probably noted, is I'm all over the place. And I like shiny objects, and there's a lot of them out there right now. So we're trying to focus on the things that we've already put some time and effort into. But yeah, we've talked about having a Growing Boulder community, which would be our, not the villages, which is kind of cool. Villages, by the way, has the highest incidence of STDs of any... you laugh, but it's true. I've not been to Margaritaville, which is not too far from where I live. Jimmy Buffett's got his place, which I think is probably pretty cool. There's a guy who knows how to build a brand. I'm 2 minutes and 24 seconds over. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Yes?
Thank you for your book. Dan and Cody have provided everyone in this room with a copy of your book. It is outside, and I'll be the one handing it out.
Thank you. Thank you.